A new threat from President Trump as a window formally closes in the war with Iran. Today marks the end of the Memorandum of Understanding, as it's called, and its 60-day deadline for peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. This morning, there are no plans in sight to end the war, and while it's not clear what happens next, President Trump is lashing out. And one very unlikely target is Oman, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East and a broker in trying to seek a deal with Iran to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This morning, the president tells Fox News, and I'm quoting the president right now, listen to this, "If Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them." Those are the president's words. He also downplays the urgency of a deal as war-weary Americans deal with high gas and oil prices. And his quote, once again, "I have no time schedule. I'm not in a hurry," end quote. CNN's Betsy Klein is over at the White House for us. Betsy, what are you learning this morning?
Well, Wolf, back when the U.S. and Iran had reached that memorandum of understanding to stop the fighting, and it would kickstart a 60-day period for technical discussions on some of the thornier nuclear issues. That 60-day deadline has officially expired as of today. So where are we? This deal is effectively in shambles. The Strait of Hormuz, traffic there in that critical oil thoroughfare is essentially at relative standstill. And the president now issuing this new warning to a key U.S. ally, Oman, that has served as an intermediary in these talks between Iran and the U.S., particularly on the topic of control of the Strait of Hormuz. He says, quote, "If Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the shit out of them." Again, the president's words there. And this appears to be an escalation with one of the U.S.'s most important allies in this region. The president also appeared to undercut top officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and the press secretary Caroline Leavitt, who in recent days have suggested that getting oil prices back on track, the price of gas, is just as much of a priority for President Trump as ending this conflict and preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. The president posting this to social media earlier today, he says, quote, "The number one goal is and always will be that Iran cannot have in any way, shape or form a nuclear weapon." The president also making clear here that he is not in a hurry to end this conflict. The midterm election says not factoring into his thinking.
President Trump in a new interview this morning threatened to bomb Oman, a key U.S. ally, if they get in the way of U.S. efforts to try to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Do these comments from Trump right now, do they really strain this relationship with Oman? Because Oman's been deeply involved behind the scenes in trying to work out a peace deal with Iran.
It's very confusing. I mean, you know, the memorandum of understanding that we signed up to, of course, it's defunct now, but it actually called on Oman and Iran to get together to try and figure out what a governance structure would look like. So
for the Strait of Hormuz.
For the Strait of Hormuz. So I don't know that they were definitely doing it pursuant to that idea or not, or whether they were actually working against us. But I'm sure Oman is thinking to themselves right now, we're trying to be a intermediary for peace. We're trying to achieve.
Have you ever heard a president of the United States threaten to bomb the, quote, shit out of a key U.S. ally the way the president has said today in terms of Oman?
Not offhand at all.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that that's the way to treat our allies. I know the president likes to show strength and he likes to be strident, but, you know, I don't know what their offense was. What's the underlying offense? Has he found out an intelligence that he's working against United States interests? Seems like you'd want to raise that in public instead of in private rather than in public, but let's wait till the rest of the story comes out and it'll be interesting to see.
So first we had South Korea, now we have Oman. I mean, the president said in an interview with Fox News that he will threaten to, and I quote, "bomb the shit out of Oman," which of course is a key US ally partner. It's not the first time, David, that he's threatened to do this. Obviously he did this back in May as well, but why is he doing so again now?
Really hard to tell because, of course, the president is a man of many grudges, and he, I think, has built up a feud with both the South Koreans and with the Omanis. With the Omanis, he first got upset because they were beginning to negotiate separately with Iran during the height of the military interactions just a few months ago. And in recent times, of course, the Omanis were talking to the Iranians about a pathway that might or might not open up the strait. But he views the Omanis as basically interfering in a Trump-designed plan here. With South Korea, it's a little more mystifying. There is no more solid U.S. ally right now in Asia, other than Japan, with the United States. And yet the president is clearly hoping to reopen these negotiations that he had in his first term with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And so he has chosen to sort of ignore the fact that Kim Jong-un has now got 60 or so nuclear weapons, maybe more, and missiles that can reach the United States, while he's, of course, continuing to talk about denuclearizing Iran.
Yeah, I mean, it's mystifying, but it's also ironic as well, isn't it? As you point out there, David, because
yes,
this is an authoritarian state that has nuclear weapons, unlike Iran. What do you think all of this is doing to the trust here of American allies?
It undercuts credibility, and credibility is a really hard thing to both reestablish, even after President Trump is out of office. It would take a long time, I think, to make sure that allies began once again to trust Washington's word. And for places like South Korea and Japan, that is all the more critical, because what's kept them from getting their own nuclear weapons, what's kept them from doing their own separate military buildups independent of the United States, has been the assurance that the U.S. worked hand in glove with them. During the Biden administration, there was a lot of effort put into getting the Japanese and the South Koreans to work together. You may remember there was a summit meeting at Camp David and so forth to get rid of the long-running hostility, goes back to before World War II, between those countries, so that you had three countries sort of sewn up together, the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. And that is now sort of being undone. With Oman, that's a much touchier relationship, but one the United States is clearly going to need, because they are right opposite the Strait of Hormuz, and you want the Omanis on your side.
Today was the deadline set for negotiations to conclude over Iran's nuclear program. Clearly, that's not happening. The memorandum of understanding went out the window a bit ago. But just this morning, when it comes to the war with Iran, Ambassador, in a new interview, President Trump said and leveled a threat, saying that he'll bomb he'll bomb Oman if it interferes with U.S. efforts in the Strait of Hormuz. What do you do with that threat? I often in our conversations feel like you kind of are translating what you hear the president saying or trying to do with when he makes these threats. Should Oman, an ally to the United States in this conflict, take that threat seriously?
Of course not. This is Trump's hyperbole. He's telling Oman, STFU, and sit on the sidelines and let me handle this. That's what he's telling Oman. Saying he's going to bomb them, as opposed to he's going to tariff them, as opposed to he's going to cut them off. They're all interchangeable. That's just Trump speak. He's in a very delicate position right now, Kate, because they really are making traction with some of the moderates in the Iran leadership, and the IRGC hardliners continually interfere with that. That's why you see these on-again, off-again, on-again, off-again announcements coming out of both the United States and Iran. And, you have to give the president credit. Everyone characterized him as a warmonger. He's really trying to make a peace deal here, but it's very difficult. He is dealing with a regime that knows it's facing an existential threat, because if the hardliners are deposed, the IRGC goes away. And, people that are going to lose their existence fight pretty hard. And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, trying to get a peace deal, maybe, but in a war that, he launched. So it's again, we get back to the beginning of what is he actually going to get out of it that he didn't have in the beginning. But clearly a long road to that from where we are today, Ambassador. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming on, always doing a little translation for us.